But I would like to welcome our next speaker now, Mr. Will Chua as well. Mr. Will Chua. Um, are you on, Will? Yay. Hi, Will.
Hi,
Nice to see
Annie.
you. I met you quite some time ago in Mardi when we had the food waste, event. I think I've been also communicating with you by email. So we hope to follow up later on that. I'm so glad that you are on board with this and help us more to familiarize ourselves with your work. I know you do a lot of tremendous work. Let's just maybe I'm sure that people have read a bit and such an interesting work. So I will let you to introduce what you do. Is that okay, Will?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, all good. Go ahead.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
So, hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you, Annie. Nice to see you again. And thank you, Rashmi and team. My name is Will. I'm also a Chua. It looks like all the Chuas are in farming today. And really enjoyed the previous session. Uh, so, my name is Will. I'm from Folo Farm. You can see it on my t shirt here, Folo. And Folo Farm is in Johor Bahru. I don't know whether there are any Johorians here today, but we are actually a community farm. We are also a social enterprise. We are not a commercial farm, and we were started by 6 families, but now we are a community farm for about 150 to 200 families. Yes, Susan, you're from Skudai. Very good. Please come and visit us. Um, and what we do really at Folo Farm is we are a community farm that we recycle food waste from the city. So every single day, we have a lorry for the last 7 years. Every day, we collect almost 3,000 kilograms of food waste from hotels, restaurants, from IKEA here in Johor, from all that. 3,000 kilograms every day. And we use it, we bring it to our farm, and we collect, we make compost, make organic compost. And using that organic compost, we grow what we believe are the most nutrient dense, the most microbes rich, healthy vegetables that we can grow. And we are organically certified by Pertanian. And we use that and we offer that to our families and the community. And any extra vegetables that we grow, we offer that to low income households for free around Ulu Tiram, where our farm is. And so that's really we're a community of people coming together. And the money that we receive uh, from giving a box a week to these 150 families, that is used to cover the non-profit side of our work, which is to collect food waste for free every single day. So we have been around for 6, 7. We've been collecting food waste for almost 7 years now. It's about 1,000,000 kilos of food waste a year. So 7 million kilos of food waste instead of going to the landfill. We have used it to return the nutrients to our land, and we practice what we call regenerative farming or natural farming or organic farming, whatever you want to call it, or permaculture. There are many slight differences, but we really, that's where we are. So what else do we do? We also have a little charity arm called Folo Gives, where we have been distributing food aid to the homeless, to people who are suffering in this lockdown, right? And we also what we also do is we also work with people who are chronically ill. So if you're someone who is have some chronic illness, and you want to eat healthy or be healthy, then we try to prioritize you and try to include you in our community. Yeah, Mr. San, long time no see, a really old friend who's here today. So that's what we do, Annie. And yeah, and I'm so happy to see you. And I'm really a good admirer of your amazing work in sustainable farming and sustainable development. Yeah, you're on mute. Are you on mute or yeah?
Sorry.
Yeah.
What I like, love much is how you look at community. You adopt a community, your family, start with your family. Yeah, because if we don't feed our family first, Yeah, I think this is where it all begins. So you talk about happy farmers. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you mean by happy farmers? How do we make farmers happy? Yeah. So this is so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So share your vision and share how you impart this happiness. This is like
Yeah.
Bhutan, talking. Go ahead,
So,
Will.
so thank you, Annie. So when I was asked to speak today, there's a lot of these days we can learn a lot about organic farming online. We can learn a lot we have so many technical knowledge, like, I was seeing just now about on hydroponics and aquaponics. So I thought maybe what I can offer is we can be interactive. So please do ask your questions. Annie and I can help answer questions. Why do we want to just me lecturing you on what is
Yes, yes,
organic
yes.
farming? Yeah. So the thing that I felt was important was to talk about happy farming. Happy farming, because farming is not an easy job, right? So we know that our farmers, whether they are Malaysians or Indonesians or Sabahans or Bangladesh or any farmer in Malaysia, chemical or organic, is not an easy life. And what I've discovered in the last 7-8 years as part of a farming community is that it's really important for us to bring our heart to the farming, because if you don't have your heart in the farming, you get burnt out, or you get very tired, or you become very critical of the world. And why is everybody so comfortable in the office in KL, and here I am trying to do so difficult work in the sun and in the rain. And so I want to talk a little bit about what is happy farming, and I would love to hear how you all feel about my sharing. So I don't really prepare these days for my talk, but I did write some thoughts before I sleep. So I'm just going to share a little bit of that. Um, and yes, I can see some questions, so I'll try to answer those later. So the first thing that I want to share, when we do farming, whether you are a gardener in your house and you're a small farmer in your house during the lockdown, or you have a small piece of land with your friends or your family, or you have a bigger piece of land with your partners, the first thing that I want to share is not about me or you, it's about the land. So every land's dream, and this is true for me in Malaysia, every piece of land in Malaysia, whether it's your backyard or a big piece of land, every land's dream is to become a forest again. Every land's dream is to become a forest again. So I hope everybody can feel that in your heart. Every land that you see. Why is it so? Because we are in the tropics. We have free sun. The sun is free. The rain is free. The microorganisms are free. The earthworms are free. Mother Nature gives us so many gifts. And so when a land has all these free gifts, a land would just want to become a forest for it again. So when we look at a piece of land, not as a piece of land for us to produce food, to make money, or to harvest only, to destroy the water or whatever it is, we look at the land as someone whose dream that we must help to fulfill. Then we will be a happy farmer. So when I look at any piece of land, I try to see, what is this land trying to tell me? How can I support this land's dream to become a forest again? Right? So even if it's your backyard, even if it's just a little piece of, site on the side of the road, this kawasan lapang, every land wants to become a forest. But most of the land today, you you can see that they are struggling to become a forest, because we have destroyed the topsoil. We have developers have moved the land again. I have nothing against developers, but we have used chemical fertilizers, we have used racun, weedicides, so they're struggling. So all you can see these days, a lot of it is lalang, a lot of sendudu, a lot of acacia trees, but you can't really grow back to become a forest again. So that's where we come in. That's where happy farmers come in. We go in and we play our part to help this land become a forest again. So that's the first principle. You can try it. I encourage everybody to try. Use this lens. Go every piece of land and ask yourself, how do I want to realize his dream? So that's the first principle. The second principle of a happy farmer is that we must love our soil like how we love our grandmother's skin. Okay, this is something that came up to me because my grandmother was an amazing lady woman and loved me a lot. And I remember when she was growing old, her skin became very soft and it became very easily wounded. So now I know everybody knows about climate change, the climate crisis. Everybody knows that a lot of our rivers are now teh tarik because all the nutrients from our land has been moved to the rivers and moved to the sea. When we see every piece of land now, we look at the soil, we must think about it as our grandmother's skin. Now, how do you protect your grandmother's skin? Because if you think about it, the land is actually our grandmother, right? Our mothers came from the land, our grandmothers came from the land, right? Every saint and prophet, everybody, everything that we know, even our ideas, even factories, anything all came from the land. So we can actually call our land our grandmother. So it's actually a truth, right? So now how do we protect our grandmother's skin? We know that when in the forest, we don't see any soil. We don't see the daging. We don't see the meat. Everything is covered by leaves. Everything is covered by nutrients. Everything is covered by shade. So that is how we cover our grandmother's skin. But if we open the soil and we leave the soil bare to the sun, to the rain, to the heat, to the wind, then we are wounding our grandmother. So the first very important principle of natural farming or organic farming or permaculture or syntropic agroforestry or whatever you think about in regenerative agriculture is that we need to cover our soil. We need to bring the forest way of growing back. And when we start doing that, we may not get short-term yields like chemical farming with a lot of fertilizers. But what we are beginning to do is we're beginning to heal the land. Okay, and when we begin to heal the land, we also become happy. You trust me, when you cover your soil and you grow food and you see the food start to grow, you will also feel happy because the grandmother is now thanking you in return. You will feel the vegetables, the leaves, the plants thanking you again. You will see butterflies coming back. You will see dragonflies coming back. You will see bees coming back, and you feel that gratitude in return. So that's the first principle of farming, and that's how you can become a happy farmer. Just treat every piece of soil like your grandmother's skin. If you cannot remember your grandmother, just think of some old person that loved you when you were a kid, and just do that. Okay?
Yes.
So that's the second principle. Now the third principle is diversity. So diversity means we want United Nations on our farm, because when COVID comes, when erratic weather comes, when pests comes, when all kinds of challenges comes, the best thing to have is a community of diverse people. And it's the same for the soil. A community of diverse plants, a community of diverse bacteria, community of diverse mycelia, a community of diverse. We need United Nations to be resilient because this is our age. We are no longer in an age of abundance where we can just dig everything from the ground and fossil fuel and just use and just consume and consume and consume. That generation is over. We are now in a generation of scarcity. We cannot keep growing endlessly on a finite planet. So what we need to do is we are in a generation of resilience. How can we be resilient? How can we be resilient against viruses? We resilient in our health, and the direct link between resilience and our health is diversity. So when we are, and diversity makes us very happy farmers. I don't want to go to a place where every day I see rows and rows of sawi only. That makes me very bored. Have you ever walked into an oil palm plantation? Rows and rows of palm oil. Are you happy when you are in an oil palm plantation? That is why no Malaysians are working in the oil palm plantation. It's all Indonesian workers. And imagine how unhappy they are having to racun and all that all the time. You know, we really have to thank them because we don't like being in an oil palm plantation. Do you like going to Cameron Highlands and you see rows and rows of kailan and you just every day work in kailan? So you are not a happy farmer when it's mono. You're only happy when you see diversity. It's like a forest. You know, you're only happy when you go to a lecture room and there's so many different ideas. You don't want somebody to be, don't want to go into a lecture room and everybody is yes, yes, no, no, same thing all the time, right? So diversity is key to be a happy farmer. Okay, and so that's another principle that came up for me. Okay, I want to leave some time for questions. So the last one I want to end with, okay, is when we become a natural farmer or a happy farmer. This is from my teacher, Pierre Loisel, who taught us how to do food waste composting. We must go in with a heart that says this: we don't know more than what we know. Okay, I don't know anybody have seen something on Facebook where they say what you know about the world is like maybe 5%. What you know that you don't know, that means you still need to learn maybe 10%. But 85% is what we don't know that we don't know. So that's the truth. We don't know what is happening in the soil. We don't know what is happening in the cosmos with quantum physics. We don't know what other functions a tree has apart from just breathing out carbon or oxygen. We don't know what an ecosystem is capable of. So when we do farming and we go in with a mindset not to control, but to respect that we don't know more than what we know, then we will be very happy farmers because we don't need to stress about control so much. We trust that we do what we know, and the 99% of what we don't know will make things happen for us. We are alive today as farmers, as humans, as friends, for reasons that we don't know more than for reasons that we know. We all know that. And now, if we want something that we don't know to happen, which I think all of us here today want, which is a fairer world, a more peaceful world, a more sustainable world that does not use all its resources so that our children don't have any more to use. If we want what we don't know to happen, because this is such a difficult thing, then we better allow what we don't know. We better trust what we don't know. If we just keep doing what we know, make money, do business, economic growth, only do what we know, produce, consume, then only what we know will happen. But if we want what we don't know to happen, we have to learn how to trust the unknown. And that makes farming very fun. Every time you go into a land, I don't know what's going to happen. So you become very curious and very observant, and you learn. You learn from the land, and you are open-minded. You're not fixed with your ideas. And that is, to me, the most important thing. And so I just want to finish with saying our mentor, Folo's mentor, Pierre, who taught us food waste composting in Taiwan. He said, my wife healed from breast cancer because of what I don't know. Even though I'm a NASA scientist, I'm a Hewlett Packard CEO, but when I started growing food from food waste, I don't know what in the world healed my wife. So I don't know more than I know. So please respect what you don't know. That's what Pierre said. Okay. And okay, maybe just one last thing that, because suddenly I remember this. Also what Pierre said is the beauty of composting, of taking anything that food waste or dry leaves around your house or whatever, and to watch and take care of that and to transform that into something useful for your health, for your children's health, for the earth, for the soil. The beauty of that is not only in just seeing that happen, seeing the circular economy happen, but actually, I've been doing this for 7 years. I can actually apply that to my life. So that's the beauty, because once you are a good composter, once you know how to do composting, and I hope everybody will learn that, even if you have an argument with your wife or you have some bad thing happen to you, maybe somebody had passed away or some difficulty in your life, you will not look at it anymore as something you want to throw away. You will look at it as something you want to compost. And you can stay with it, you give it warmth, you give it oxygen, you give it aerobic, thermophilic, a little bit of love, and you will see that even our difficulties we can compost. So the spirit of composting is not just applied to food waste or to the organic world, but also to our spiritual world. Because we learn the same habit and we can apply it to ourselves. So I encourage everyone, don't throw anything away because we have the power to transform it. Whether it's materials or spirit, don't throw anything away. Okay, so sorry, that took longer.
Use the available resources. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Just keep transforming.
Using, yes.
Yeah.
Recycle, reuse. Yeah. All part of it. Very, very interesting.
No more lines like this. No more lines like this. Yeah. Like all circles now. All circles.
Yeah. Very, very interesting, Will. So we learn, what happiness is about, and looking at this principle, to the first one is listen to the land, look at the land. I think this is be a land whisperer, so you can understand what they want to do, and because they nourish us, and I think it is so interesting that you make an analogy with grandmother's skin. This is really, how nurturing. This is about nature and nurturing that come together. Understand nature, nurture nature. So this is something that we would really must understand. Diversity, which is very critical, very, very important, and to have a united nation population in your farm, I think, this is a very big vision. Everyone must envision this kind of looking at the way we farm. And of course, to emphasize that, we don't know what we don't know. And even in the universe, we probably know less than 5% of our universe. So there's so much more that we need to know. So I think that is very interesting to look at this scope. So before we move to the topic of food waste, maybe if anyone would like to share something, ask something. I'm not sure if Secretariat, if somebody raised their hand, if they would like to speak. Is this okay, or do we just use the chat? Can they use raise hand to if they would like to interact with Will? Is that possible?
Maybe I can. I saw some questions. Maybe I can quickly answer them first on the chat.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so I see Susan, you have two questions. One is, you are a community supported agriculture. Yes, we are a CSA. How do you start the challenges that you are facing now? And then later on, you said, I compost, but rats come, birds are coming. Okay, so let me just quickly answer you first, Susan. So how did we start? We had no idea. We just decided, okay, 6 families, we want to eat healthy. Some of our family members had chronic illnesses. So we decided, no, we are not going to continue eating chemical vegetables. So we want to grow our own food. So we had a small piece of land, 6 families. We started to get to know some farmers, organic farmers, and we just put in some savings, and we just want to grow for ourselves. But then, our loved ones continue to grow from family to friends, from friends to friends of friends, friends of friends. So it just grew organically. So there's no plan. But what I encourage you to do is don't just wait. Just start growing, and just get a few friends. Don't do it alone, because again, human beings are not used to being alone. We are used to being a kampong. Get a few friends together, start growing, and then feed yourselves, feed your own loved ones. And then you will find that because you are happy, if you follow those principles, then people will come to you, because people love being with happy people. And then from there, you will grow. And yeah, we were very surprised that in 2 years, we were cash flow positive. So we didn't have to put in our own money after less than 2 years. So that's the question, your first question. And your second question was composting with rats and all that. Sure, yeah. I mean, rats are tough lah. But birds and butterflies, I love them. they sing the songs in the morning and all that. So what I would like to just say is, there are many things you can YouTube. Again, I don't want to go too technical today, but there are many ways you can compost, or you can not compost certain things to prevent rats from coming. There are also now products that are anti-rat, like the Ryden composter, like some tumblers and all that. So there are many ways to do it. So don't just let these animals and beings uninspire you, but let them inspire you. Every insect, every animal that comes to you, to your farm, is teaching you something. Either it's teaching you to improve your soil or teaching you to improve the way you farm or the way you compost. See them not as enemies, see them as teachers. And they are really teachers. So the grandmother is sending you some teachers. But if you don't see them as teachers, you cannot learn from them. If you see them as enemies, then you miss the lesson. Don't miss the lesson. We only have one life. Okay, so that's your question. I see another. Yeah, sorry, Annie.
How big is your farm, Will?
We are about 10, 11 acres. We grow vegetables on about 1.5 to 2 acres. We do our food waste composting on about 1 acre, 1.5 acres, and the rest is fruit trees, animals. We have ducks, we have geese, we have chicken, we have goats, we have community spaces. So we really want to create an environment and community for people to come. So we don't grow vegetables on every square inch of our farm. So that's how. So we welcome you when lockdown is over. Please come and visit us. Yeah.
Yes, I must visit your place. Yeah. Is there any more question that we have there?
Okay. So I saw Dharma, a wonderful name, Dharma. Is that your real name? I have a friend called Karma from Bhutan. Where and how exactly do you do your food waste composting? And then there's another question by Alana. Is compost made from non-organic food scraps considered organic compost? That's a really good question. I get that questions from aunties all the time. I'm not saying you're an auntie, Alana, but aunties always ask me that question, right? So okay, so Dharma, we'll go with your question first. Where and how exactly do you do food waste composting? Okay, just YouTube Folo. You will see some videos. You'll see how we do it with a bobcat and heaps of food waste. Basically, what we practice is aerobic, thermophilic, organic composting. Right. So we allow the compost to the United Nations of Microbes to ferment over 2 to 3 months, breathe, and we use a very natural way. We don't use machines like electricity or anything like that. We don't dehydrate. We just allow the natural process to happen. So you just need to get the right carbon nitrogen mix, and then you just give it enough air, enough love, enough time. Then the magic will happen by itself. And the longer you do it, the better it gets. So yeah, just YouTube technical questions. And is compost made from non-organic food scraps considered organic compost? Yes, I feel so. First, we are certified organic, so Pertanian thinks so. But this is how I feel. Nothing is wasted. Even if your food that you take from restaurants and all that has pesticides, maybe traces of it, has weedicides, has all these things. Even universities like Cornell in the US, they have said that if you do it aerobically, that means with oxygen, if you do it thermophilically, that means it heats up to above 50 degrees for more than 72 hours, most pathogens and most of these chemicals will be broken down by the bacteria and the fungi into something useful for your soil. So if you do that, but the important thing is you must have diversity, so that you have a lot of United Nations working on all this, breaking down all these chemicals, right? That are in this food. And the other important thing is you must give it enough time. Don't rush it. So give it 2 to 3 months. Even nuclear waste, Mother Earth will break it down. It just takes maybe 1,000,000 years. Even plastic, Mother Earth will take 1,000 years, but it will break it down. So with food waste, just give it 3 months, 4 months, and everything will break down. But aerobic and hot, thermophilic, that really helps. That's what the science shows. I hope that answers both questions. Okay, so
Okay, Alana say, do you compost meat waste?
oh yes, we practice non-discrimination, just like Mother Earth. Mother Earth don't care whether you are Donald Trump, you are our current Prime Minister, or you are a kind person. Mother Earth treats everybody like that, her children, her grandchildren. So that's what we do. The way we learn how to we compost is we compost cooked meat, uncooked meat, everything. We just don't compost too wet stuff like soups, curries, all that. We don't do that. And we try to make sure that meat or cooked food is not a very big part of our compost. It's part, so we have vegetables, we have leaves, we have everything else. So it's not just purely meat, so that there is enough diversity and balance. So we do compost everything. We just make sure that our mix is as diverse as possible, and everything is transformed. And those things that don't compost so quickly, like bones, seashells, mussels, whatever, we compost them again and again and again until it breaks down. So we have a sifter. So we sift the good ones, then not so good ones. The one unfinished, we continue it again and again. So there are some bones that have been around for years in our composting system. And those bones, they are the mother culture. They carry the bacteria from the previous generation of food waste, and they continue to keep increasing the diversity of our mother culture. So that's what we do. Yes.
So let's see what else. Is GMO food waste, can GMO food waste be used for compost?
Well, firstly, I want to ask you, do you know or not what is GMO and what is not GMO these days in our food? It's very hard for us to differentiate, right? So the reality is, even if you go to a restaurant, the guy doesn't know. Is he serving you GMO or not? Is the soy GMO? And a lot of these big companies, they lobby the government to remove it from the label. So you don't really know. You know what is non-GMO, but you don't know what is GMO, right? So the reality is that GMO is around, right? So what I believe, and this is back to the principle that I always say, which is believe in the unknown. Okay, GMO also comes from Mother Earth, right? Because in a way, indirectly, humans created this thing. But I believe that the 95% of what we don't know will take care of all these things. So I can't choose whether this leaf is GMO when the restaurant give me that is GMO or not. But what I can do within my control is I maintain a diverse family of bacteria, fungus, protozoa, and all that in my compost, so that when I receive this, I can transform it. So for example, if you put salt in a glass of water, you drink, it's very salty. But if you put salt in a river, you drink, the river is not salty, because the river has so much more and so much more unknown. So that's what we do. So a little bit of GMO is not going to we are not going to worry about it if we have a river, if we have a United Nations. But if you are just if you just compost GMO soil all the time and that's all you do, then you have to start to worry. So try to create diversity and trust the unknown.
I think with the GMO, the main concern is more how it is grown, because they are always, with pesticide and or more chemical based. So maybe that was, but over time, this chemical will also have their own half life, that it can diminish. But what is also important when it comes to like fruits, sometimes you have label on the fruits, the sticker. This we have to be careful as well, and especially if we want to do, organic certified, because in Europe, for example, if you want to produce, compost, they are painstakingly have to remove all these stickers. Yeah, actually, a lot of the composter hate this label. Yeah, on fruits and vegetables, it is not necessary to be there. Yeah, so this is something that we usually, as consumer, we also must look at when we buy things. Yeah, this is the choice that we make, right? How your food come in. So my next question is also, Will, do you think that as farmers or as consumers, do we have control? You used the word control earlier. Do we have control over what we eat and what we farm?
Well, it's a good question, right? So what is within our control and what is without our control, is outside our control. So I love what my brother Chua said earlier. Like, the important thing for me during these uncertain times, and the times will get more uncertain maybe in the future, is what is within our control is our local community, our local choices. How aware do we want to be, right? How awake do we want to be when we make choices? Do we want to just be asleep and just follow along the normal things that people want us to do, the companies want us to buy this and that? Or do we want to wake up and be awake to the choices that we make when it comes to our food? So we chose to wake up 7 years ago when are you going to wake up, right? So for us, we had the right conditions to start our own farm. And then the farm had the right conditions to become a bigger farm. But what about you? Can you maybe go to Jaya Grocer and start selecting the right one? Can you know your farmer? I mean, one of Folo's biggest taglines on the back of my T-shirt is know your farmer, know your food. Do you want to just buy what people give you on the shelves of the supermarket? Or do you want to get to know who your farmer is? You know who your doctor is, right? You know who your lawyer is? You know who your politician is? You know who your adun is? But do you know who your farmer is? For such an important part of your life, which is something that gives you nourishment, gives you health. So why don't you see the face of your farmer when you consume your food, right? For me, one of the big things is, what is something within your control is you must know who your farmer is. Don't be lazy. Wake up, right? Visit a farm. It may be Chua, it may be urban, it may be or grow your own food. So you know who your farmer is. You are yourself. You are your own farmer. It's very empowering. Somebody said recently, growing your own food is like printing your own money. I cannot agree even more, because the sun is free, the water is free, the microorganism is free, food waste is also free. So you're printing your own money if you grow your own food. So these are things within your control. What is not within our control is what big companies are doing, what GMO companies are doing, how they are lobbying governments, how they are forcing subsidized food to be transported few thousand miles to Malaysia, so that we are not food secure. We must rely on their corn, their wheat. We must rely on all these things. So that is something not within our control. But what is within our control is we can take that power back, make those awake choices. Don't be asleep. I mean, we only have one life. Why you want to sleep the whole life? Just wake up. Yeah, that's how I see it.
I think because at the moment, these last few days, the main discussion in the newspaper, is the increased price of chicken and egg. Yeah, so you can see that the main problem was because of the feed. Yeah, the feed, the corn, the soybean. These are being controlled by outsiders. Yeah, these foreign companies. Yeah, and the problem is, we know that the corn feed is almost 100%, I guess, GMO in this country. Yeah, you can always see every month there is an announcement by biosafety department that a shipment, that a company is applying for approval for GMO corn to be in Malaysia to come in. Yeah, or soybean or potato. Yeah, so we have to know what food we are doing. And earlier also we know that we import not just food but feed. Yeah, and here we're talking about the farming input. Yeah, which is very critical. Yeah, of course, one of the input is compost. Later we also hear another speaker will speak also about this. Because farm input is important. Yeah, and not just the input, the seeds. These are very important. And that is why when we talk about GMO, the produce itself is one thing, but the GMO seed itself is another. Yeah,
Yes, I cannot agree more with you, Annie, because a lot of people think of food security as just the food, but they forget that the inputs are also security, right? So if you have a farm, let's say you have a farm, whether it's an urban farm or a rural farm, but you rely on inputs from overseas. Even though your farm is local, your inputs are not local, you are still not secure. Malaysia is still not a food secure or food resilient companies. So every time I meet politicians or governments, I tell them that we are only as secure as the inputs to our farm. And the most secure and the most resilient is when our inputs come from our farm itself or from our local community, right? So it can be the tai ayam from our local ayam. It can be the tai lembu, tai kambing. It can be our own tai also if you dare to do it, right? It can be food waste. It can be growing our own grass to be used as fertilizer. So that is real food security. If you rely on GMO corn, GMO wheat, what if the next COVID happened and the Bayer and Monsanto and all these companies say, sorry, I don't want to give you your fertilizer anymore, right? Is that food resilience? That's not food resilience. That's not food security. So we as a country, I think we need to think about this deeply. How do we make sure that all this rich organic matter that Malaysia produces because we are in the tropics, how do we use that to grow our food? Not throw it away, not go to the sungai, not go to the sea. How do we do that? How do we grow our own fertilizer? How do we do that? So that is very, very important to think about. You touch on something, it's very deep in my heart, because a lot of people, we are still, even we start a farm, well, we just buy lah. We just buy and we use, and we call that food security. It's not food security. Yeah. So that's very important. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Before we have about 15 minutes. So now we go to the food waste part. Is there
Okay.
Okay, I think we have, let me see, how often do you apply compost on the soil? Do you still apply fertilizer after applying compost? This is from UoC. Could you answer that one first?
Okay. How often? It really depends on again, it goes back to the principle of observing and not knowing and getting the feedback from the soil, right? So, of course, there are standard applications. Again, please don't ask me questions that you can YouTube. YouTube is much better teacher than me, right? So if you YouTube or you Google how much compost to use, there are so many people that give you all kinds of answers. How many kilo per meter lah? How many tons per acre lah? There are so many things online. But what I can say is go back to the principle. Observe your soil. Now, if I will, who is the teacher of whether your soil is good? Is the vegetables, is the plants, right? So if you look at your plants, if the plant is smiling back at you, they have enough. If the plant is yellow or it's got some problem or insects are coming, the insects are saying this plant is not healthy, so I want to eat this plant. So the insects is not trying to be your enemy. The insects is saying your soil is still needs some help. That's why I eat this plant, because this plant is not healthy. We don't want to eat unhealthy plants. We are humans, we want to eat healthy plants. So the insects choose the healthy ones for us and take away all the unhealthy ones. Like a lion will take the weak deer away so that the genes of the deer continue to stay strong for the next generation, right? So when you ask yourself how much compost to use, right? Don't wait for an answer from a teacher. Observe. So I will apply a bag, see what happens. Make sure once you apply compost, you cover the soil, you protect the soil so that the compost doesn't go away, right? And then try to get the feedback from your plants, right? And then try to plant different plants so that different plants can give you different feedback. Like kunyit likes some shade, so plant it in some shade. Don't plant kunyit with so much sun, right? So you must understand the plants also, because to understand is to love. The more you understand, then the more you love, and then the more you're happy, right? So ubi kayu is 12 months, it's very high, it needs sun, a lot of sun. So you plant kunyit with ubi kayu, you see what happens, because ubi kayu can give shade to your plants. If you plant sawi, sawi loves sun, right? But sawi loves a lot of water. So maybe what your problem is not compost, but is watering. So again, have that interesting feedback loop with what you plant. So don't worry about how much to use, and also what you put inside the food waste is you will come up with different compost. So just trust that, again, there's 95% unknown. Just use it, smell it, put it in. Somehow you will know when you get it right. Nature will tell you. So that's how I would say. Don't worry about just fixed amounts, because when it comes to farming, there's just so many variables and so many factors that you cannot control. So all you have is your trust. So just trust and just do it. Don't worry, just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is evolving knowledge building. Yeah, so it's a living education, lifelong education. So,
Yes,
yeah.
lifelong.
Okay, two similar questions. We mentioned a bit about meat composting and waste. This is associated with maggots. How do we deal with them? So we have SK Tan
Okay.
and Mr. Liu, I think, talk about meat and maggots. Yeah, meat composting and maggots.
Okay, so I tell you first what happens on my farm, and then, but I know that it might not apply to you. So what happens is every time we pour food waste from our lorry, and then we leave it there for a while before we start making the compost, the first person that goes there is our chicken. So our chicken house is near our compost. So we have about now, I think, I don't know, 30, 40 chickens or 50, I can't remember. But they will know that the food waste is there. So they will go there every morning and they eat first. And guess what they eat? They love maggots. They love maggots, they love little worms, they love rice, they love bread. So they have their first meal, right? And that's why people are always very surprised. Hey, Will, 3 tons of food waste, why you have so little flies? Not zero flies, but so little flies. Because our chickens are there eating away all the maggots and all that. And one chicken can eat a lot of maggots. And then you get free feed for your chicken. So that's perfect, right? So I would say, that's one way, which is the natural way of dealing. We are not asking for zero maggots, just like how we don't ask for zero suffering in this world or zero, we want a balance of nature. And there's always an answer. So Bill Mollison, who is the founder of permaculture, one of the founders, he always say, you don't have a snail problem, you have a duck deficiency. You see? So the snail is not the problem. You just forget that you don't have ducks. So you just put the ducks in and everything is solved. So that's Bill Mollison. So it's the same with maggots. You don't have a maggot problem. You just don't have chickens. Or you can, of course, there are also ways to deal with that. You can have a tumbler system, a vessel system of composting that prevents flies from going in. You can try to control all that, right? And there are many solutions on Google and on YouTube. But the lazy and the happy farmer way of doing it is you think about, how do I increase the diversity of the ecosystem so that everything is balanced? And so for us, it's chickens. For us, it's some birds. Our ducks are also going there, and so we allow that to happen. We allow that to happen, and so that's how I deal with it. And some of the meats, when we put it in, our dogs go and eat. They love it. And dogs they know which is healthy, which is not, which one is rotten, which one is not. They select their own food, and our dogs are very healthy. Yeah. So don't underestimate the inherent intelligence of our animals. They may not have big brains like us, but they have intelligence. They have evolved. The chicken is probably evolved for a billion years. The dog came from the wolf, right? So they have a lot of intelligence that they don't even know, right? So you will notice a lot of amazing intelligence when you allow it to happen. And I think for that, I want to just say something that I really love, which is from an agroforestry teacher that we have recently got to know. His name is Ernst Gosch, and he says this, and this is very important. We are not the intelligent ones. We are part of an intelligence system. Very important. We are not the intelligent ones. We are part of an intelligence system. So when we do food waste composting, we are not the intelligent ones. We are part of an intelligence system. So all we need to know is observe what the system is asking for, and we support that. Then we become part of that system. You see? So we are not we are not the intelligent ones. Our intelligence is just a very small part of the intelligence of nature, right? Or if you're spiritual, of God. So we need to be able to tap into that or observe that bigger intelligence. And in the case of maggots, the greater intelligence is how do we create a supporting environment to control that population, to balance that population. Sorry to be a bit philosophical, but that's how I see it. Again, technical solutions, YouTube, much better than me. Much better than me. Yeah.
Thank you, Will. Thank you. Okay, I think I can combine these two. We mentioned a bit on oily food and soupy food earlier. How does it affect quality of compost? And also, whether peel like orange or this can be used in our compost, and how would that affect the quality? Yeah. So
Right.
the two questions we can combine that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to ask you to YouTube again lah, but actually all these also YouTube have all the answers. But I'll just summarize oily food and acidic things like food pills and all that, right? So again, the principle is United Nations. If every day you just have oily food to compost, then you are going to struggle with your composting. Or if every day you only have, you just eat orange every day, so you only have orange peels, you are also going to struggle. You might as well just make enzymes, don't make compost, right? So again, the principle is diversity. Try to make sure that you don't have one thing that is too much of one thing. So if let's say you have a lot of oily food, share it with your neighbors, exchange for some, or you do composting with your neighbors. So maybe she has a lot of vegetables, right? Make it a community activity, right? So that's how I see it. Okay, when it comes to quality of compost, without going into too much technical details, I just want to share this. There is compost that is bacterium dominant, and there is compost that is mycelium or fungi dominant. Generally, if you have more food waste, more fresh material, and less dry, like wood chips or brown material like sugarcane or whatever, if you have more of that and less of the brown, then your compost will be a bit hotter, and you will end up after 2-3 months, or even Berkeley method. I saw Mr. San, you said that beautiful method, Berkeley method, 18 days, but a lot of work, right? But the Berkeley method produces a bacteria-dominant compost. So bacteria-dominant compost is very good for growing short-term vegetables, your sawi, your kangkong, your daun keledek, your all these short-term vegetables, because these vegetables, they only live for very short time. So they need the bacteria to help them find the nutrients. Now, if you use more carbon, which means your compost is less hot, it means you use more wood chips, dry leaves, or sugarcane, or whatever you can find, right? Straw or rice husk, then you will end up that the compost need longer time, right? And you will have more fungus, so it will be more fungal dominant or mycelium dominant. Now that kind of compost is also okay to grow food with that, vegetables and all that, but you will find that those kind of compost, the trees will love it, the fruit trees, the beings that live longer, the pokok hutan, the pokok buah, the pokok, all these longer term things, they prefer fungal dominant. Why? Because they are in one place for a very long time. So like pokok merbau, our national tree, is in one place for 300, 400, 500 years. So they will need the help of the mycelium, the fungus, to find nutrients from far away places to bring it to their roots. So the longer the lifespan of the plant, the more fungal dominant compost they need, right? So that is the only little technical thing that I want to mention without diving too deep into it. So that is, I guess you can call that different qualities of compost. But again, there's no bad compost. To me, that in my mind, there's no such thing as bad compost. The only thing I'm worried is you're not willing to compost. Just do composting. I really encourage everybody to do that. There's no bad compost.
Okay. Thank you, Will. Okay. One more here. Okay, we have about 3 minutes or so. So let's see. Okay, this is Mr. Wan Ahmad. Okay. He's living in an apartment with no balcony. So can he bury his food scrape in a pot of soil? Will that work? Yeah. Will that also invite this pest and funky smell, funny smell, and this? What is your advice for him?
Okay, yeah. So I'm sorry to be between you and your lunch. I'm also feeling hungry, and also don't want to eat into my dear friend Habir H's time. I'm sure he has a lot to share about composting. Please ask all your composting questions to H. He's also an expert. But then okay, to your question about balcony. So I have a cheeky answer and I have a real answer. I don't know whether you want the cheeky answer or you want the real answer, but I feel cheeky, so I'm going to give you the cheeky answer first. Okay, the cheeky answer is, why do you want to farm on your balcony? That is the cheeky answer, because why do you want to do things alone, my dear friend? Right? Even if you have an apartment, there is a land nearby, there is a kawasan lapang nearby, there is a wakaf land nearby, there is a community garden nearby where you stay. Now everybody is farming in COVID, right? Don't do it alone. Bring your food waste to a community garden. Do it with your neighbors. Do it with your friends. When doing that, you will also feel less alone. You will also connect with community, and you will be a healthy person. if you do that. Sure, now lockdown, maybe you cannot go, right? But also, I'm sure you can find your ways. Everybody find their way, right? So that is my cheeky answer. Because I don't want to restrict my mind to try and solve a problem on a balcony. That is just really is not liberating. It doesn't give me freedom. And I don't enjoy going to my balcony to bury my food waste, even though it might work. But I will enjoy going to a nearby community and growing food together with them and putting our food waste together so that when I go on holiday, somebody can do my composting for me also. That's what I want. So go back to the happy farmer principles, which is, so that's how I would say it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I also stay in apartment. I have a small balcony. Where I have about at least 30 varieties of plants on my balcony. But in our neighborhood, our place, we also have community garden, and we have small composting unit. Every Wednesday morning, 7 and 8, we will do whatever in the community garden, and then you go back and tend your own individual unit. So this is, I think you need distraction. Yeah, I think this is being happy as well. You have to be happy at home. Yeah, happy farmers, also happy eaters, happy consumers. Yeah, when we see who produce our food is happy, we will also be happy to eat that food. So I think that is very very important to see this linkage. I think I will run through one last time and see if there's anything, because it is already one. And then let's see.
And Annie, you are much wiser than me. So I think you should run 1 hour for to answer questions.
No, it's okay. 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 I see some good comments. Feedback. Dr. Nora from UKM also support. That we must look at planting materials and input as main component of food security. We, looking at the end product itself is not enough. We must know what ingredient, what other things goes into producing the food. Thank you, Dr. Nora. Because earlier we had also an event focusing on seeds and how to preserve seed. I think everyone have to look at this as well.
Yes, okay. Let's start saving our own seeds.
Yes.
Don't worry about the government say you cannot save your seeds. Just save your seeds, because you will save our children's lives by saving seeds.
So I would like just take this opportunity to share. We are with a few NGOs starting this community. We call it Rizab Benih Community Initiative. Rizab Benih Community. We invite everyone who want to save seed and share seeds. Yeah. So if I want to look for seed, and probably will have the seed that I like, so I might ask Will, can you please share your seed with me? Yeah, so this is something that we can encourage. Okay, so we come to one final question. I'm dying to ask you, about food waste. Yeah, since you in the beginning you mentioned you collect about 3,000 kg of food waste every day. Yeah.
Yep.
And is this, when you see this number, this statistic, how do you feel about this? What do you think of the way Malaysians eat, and what is your feeling about this? Yeah, is this not alarming? I don't know. How do you see this?
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I'm eating into your time. So although 3,000 kilograms is a lot, it's a tiny drop in the ocean. So if you look at the statistics, I think Malaysia is like 15,000 tons a day, something like that, which is a monstrous amount. We are 0.001% of food waste. Now, a lot of course, in my heart, Annie, which is probably the answer you want to hear, I feel sad and angry because why are we wasting so much food, right? But if we were to also go back to, if we understand the situation a bit more, we know that a lot of the food waste is lost in transition. Most of the food waste is because the food has to travel too far. Why? Because we like to rely on big companies planting food in big acres to travel far to us. So localization will help with the food waste. A lot of food waste is lost in travel. A lot of food waste is lost on the shelf of the supermarket, so a lot of that is food waste. So there's a big part of that. Then also there's a lot of food preparation waste. There's a lot of food preparation waste. But if we outsource all our food preparation to wholesalers, to supermarkets, to restaurants, then a lot of that goes to waste. But if we take some of that ownership and we prepare our own food, then we can use some of that to recycle for our own garden. Right? So a lot of these problems, if we look at it, if you understand it, there are many ways to solve it. But I do feel that we waste a lot, and I do feel that we are polluting our rivers and we are polluting our waste stream, our landfills and all that, and it's not sustainable. Again, we have the power to transform that food waste. Why do we want to throw it away? So we shouldn't, everybody in this call today shouldn't look at food and want to throw it away anymore. Everybody should think, how can I transform that into something useful for the soil and ultimately for the next generation? Because we know we are going down this very steep slope of climate crisis, if we don't do something. But we know that if we do something, it will make a big difference. Because all you need to do is you walk to Gasing Hill, or you walk to Gunung Tahan, or Gunung Pulai. You know that under the forest is very cool. There's no climate change. So if we change our microclimate, the macroclimate will change. That is the only way that we can do this. So you change your microclimate, whether it's your inner microclimate or your microclimate in your community or your microclimate in your local farmer's farm. And that will change the weather. That one is true. It's scientifically proven. So food waste really, let's not waste it anymore. Let's not even have the word food waste anymore. Yeah, it's just something that we can use. It's not longer, the word waste should be taken out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Will. And I'm sure our audience is also getting a lot from you. As very philosophically passionate, yeah, about your work and how this it is transferring to us. And I can feel this passion, and I'm so glad that you come in and share with us. So before we close this session, maybe I just give you 1 minute just to wrap up. Yeah, impart to us your advice, your wisdom, so that what do we take from here? Please.
1 minute. Okay.
Yeah.
So dear friends, thank you for listening to me. When I get passionate, I talk a lot. So minta maaf if I offended somebody or I was too cheeky. But really, I hope just for me, it really goes back to that first principle. Every land wants to be a forest. We really need to help the lands achieve this dream so that our children, Malaysians, have a future. If we continue to destroy our forests, plant monoculture and chemicals, farms and palm oil and all that, is going to be, our children is going to find it harder and harder to live a happy life. Yeah. So let's all just try our best to return to support our land's dream to become a forest again. A food forest is even better, right? So even if a normal forest or food forest, whatever it is, anything that we don't touch, we don't love. So please touch nature. Please make sure our children touch nature so that we will love. If our children don't touch nature, they will not love nature. So make sure they touch. And touching nature is good for COVID, it's good for health. So please touch nature so that you can love nature. And anything that we don't understand, we don't love. So please spend time to understand farming, nature, soil. The more we understand, the more we love. So understanding and touching, we need to do that. So please do that. I'm happy to answer any questions, but please ask YouTube first. Please ask YouTube first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. And with that, I thank everybody also. Yeah, we will meet again in the next session. And Will, I look forward to visit your place soon. I hope. Yeah, and I will be in touch. Yeah, and see how we can work further on our collaboration and things.